So first, I wanted to ask you about joining the project, because I know that Drew Pierce signed on first, so when you came in, how much of the story was already in place?
We actually came on at the same time. When I was first offered the project, I said I was happy to direct it, but I didn't want to be the only writer on board. I just knew what a massive undertaking it was. So that's when Drew came on.
Is there a reason you chose to do it that way instead of writing it yourself?
Yeah, I had worked on the previous movie and was working on that screenplay in the middle of production and couldn't believe how any one person had come up with all of these crazy ideas and didn't think I could. So I just said, bring somebody in.
Was there anything that you credit to breaking story on this? Any particular piece of this narrative that kind of pulled it all together?
It changed all the time. And, what Drew and I started with a very different story than the one we ended up with. We started with a very different script. I think the thing that, for breaking story, that really changed everything was the motorcycle chase. And originally, Ethan was chasing a different person, and the motorcycle chase was in a different part of the movie. And when we moved that, it shifted everything. It changed who all the characters were, it changed their agendas, and it really opened up the movie.
Do you guys plan out which action sequences you want to include before creating the whole narrative?
Yeah. Tom and I sat down. That's the great thing about directing Mission Impossible. It's like, what do you want to do? And just tell us what you want to do and we'll do it. So I sat down with Tom and we said, okay, we want to do a motorcycle chase, we want to do an underwater sequence. I got this crazy idea for an opera sequence I'd like to do. And then you put them all in an order you think will make sense and then try to create a story that takes you through all those action sequences.
The one thing I couldn't believe was how you connect the underwater sequence, a car chase, and a motorcycle chase. And it shouldn't work, but it flows absolutely seamlessly.
When we put it all together that way, we said, this is either really going to be great or it's going to be a total mess, and we'll see. And it turned out.
You got a winner there.
Oh, good, thank you.
Is there some sort of Mission Impossible Bible somewhere? Is sticking to the lore and what happened in past films super important?
I swore after this movie that I was going to sit down and write the Bible. I said to Tom, I was like, I think I figured out how to do this. But I didn't. It's every time you think you've got a grasp on what Mission Impossible is, it surprises you. There's really no nailing it down.
Are there any Easter eggs people can look out for?
There's a million Easter eggs in this movie. If you're a fan of the series, you're going to be very pleased.
Anything specific you can tease without spoiling it? Also, because I'm seeing it again tonight, so I want to know what to look out for.
Okay. Just listen very carefully, because there's dialogue from another movie in this movie.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me about working with Tom and the stunts? Because part of the reason people like these movies so much is it's like, what crazy thing can Tom Cruise do next? Yeah. So does it fall on you at all to make sure the audience is also fearing for Ethan Hunt's life while still enjoying the next thing that Tom Cruise pulls off?
Yeah, that's job number one. I mean, you have to put the audience in the character's point of view, and that's one of the reasons why doing all these stunts practically is so effective. There's just an intangible sort of feeling you get watching it happen for real, and Tom just has a great ability to bring the audience with him.
What in here isn't practical? Because on the way home from the screening last night, a whole bunch of us were like betting, that's probably CG. That's probably CG.
Which one did you think was CG?
Most of us settled on the underwater sequence. That a good deal of that had to be.
I can tell you that the underwater sequence, bits of the set are extended, but Tom's really underwater the whole time.
It's insane.
Yeah.
What about when he dives into it? What is he diving into?
What's he diving into? That's a real element that that really exists.
How big is that drop?
The drop that he's dropping from is over 120 feet.
That's nothing, for him at least.
No, for him that's a walk in the park.
Now I wanted to ask about the POV shots that you incorporated in the film, because it really brings that feeling of being in the action to another level. Yes. So how do you go about figuring out when to incorporate those?
Some of them were very specific and very particular, especially in the Opera House. We really wanted to put you in Tom's POV as well as Rebecca's POV. Other ones during the car chase, we covered ourselves and shot almost everything in a POV so that at any time we could go to it at will.
And the geography in the Opera House is insanely impressive too, because
thank you.
I feel like most movies you shouldn't know where you are, but you know where every single character is and who is aiming at who, which is incredible.
Job one, clarity and geography. And I learned on Jack Reacher all about that sort of thing in the quarry sequence at the end of the movie, and it got me ready for the opera.
What notes and prep material do you take to set? Because I imagine you must need to have everything mapped out and storyboarded so you know precisely what you're getting.
Yeah, it depends on the sequence. We'll storyboard out. The opera was storyboarded. The A400 was storyboarded. There are other sequences I come to and remain as open-minded as I can. I never handle paper. That's rule number one. Paper just accumulates and it bogs you down. So everything is done electronically or it's in my head.
And now to wrap up, I wanted to ask about the release date shift, because the idea of losing, what was it, 6 months on a movie?
5 months, yeah.
I mean, that just makes me insanely uneasy. So what was your reaction when you heard that?
Pressure is a privilege, as Billie Jean King would say. We were very, very, very excited but we knew that that was going to force us to concentrate. It was going to eliminate second guessing. We finished the film 3 days ago.
You finished it well.
Oh,
thank you
you
so much for your time, and congratulations. Great.